Hello, my name's Tim. Welcome to Tim Burbage Reads, and this is a bit of an overdue video. So usually I do a monthly wrap up of everything I've read in the previous month. And then May, I kind of ran out of time, didn't do one, and then June, I didn't feel like I read that much, so I didn't do one. And then July happened, so now I've got 3 months, 3 months worth of stuff, which is 20 books. Uh, so I don't have them all physically here because some of them were library books, some of them are ebooks. Um, so I'm just kind of rattle through them quite quickly, maybe give a 1 or 2 sentence review and my star rating and what I thought about it. Hopefully, we'll get back to regular programming at the end of August, beginning of September, with another monthly wrap up. But yeah, let's see. There's a police car driving past my window quite loudly. Hopefully, you guys haven't heard that, but oh well. Right, let's get going. So, first thing first, I read Miles Morales Spider Man comic with my son. Or graphic novel. It was like 6, 7 kind of combined. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was okay. I liked how um, Miles Morales met uh, Adrian Toome's granddaughter. Uh, what was her name? I can't remember. Starling. That was it. That was quite good. It was okay. It was fine. My son liked it, but he wasn't like, ooh, really drawn in. Next was Abroad in Japan by Chris Broad. Got this from the library. I thought it was very charming, very funny. Not incredibly informative about Japan, certainly from a tourist perspective, but much more from a cultural perspective because he's lived there a long time. And then towards the end, the last third of the book was about him growing his YouTube channel. So that was quite interesting to read from my perspective. Yeah, so that was 4 stars. I've got a review for that. Next was the Harry Potter Wizarding Almanac. So I read that with the kids, and it's it's a big like coffee table style book, and there's little to no original material in it. It's like facts about Hogwarts. It's quotes from the characters, quotes from the books about certain things, the layout of the castle, different stuff you can make wands out of, fairy tale creatures, the different teachers, the history, the timeline of the books. Um, my kids loved it. I really liked because it was a big coffee table book. We would just pick a random thing to read about before going to bed. Like it's not a story, so you could be like, "What do you want to learn about? I want to learn about wands. Cool. What do you want to learn about? I want to learn about unicorns. Cool." So some pages were far more interesting than others. I thought the layout was really well done. So yeah, that's what bumped it up to 4 stars. Then I read Miles Morales Shockwaves. This was by Justin A. Reynolds. This is the first book. We read the second one late last year. I think we got it from the school fair. And it's a comic and it's written much more for children, for younger people. Really, really nice drawing, art style, and text bubble. Text is easy to read and nice and clear. And I like this more than the Marvel Comics one. So I gave that 4 stars. Then I read The Story of My Life by Helen Keller. This was my mystery book for May, from my friend Gemma. I enjoyed that. I gave that 4 stars. It's the first half is her diary, basically, of her life up until the age of 21, and then the second half is her letters from when she was up until the age of 21, and you see how much she develops. You see her view of the world. I am interested in finding out more what she did post the age of 21 because it's only up to then. And then my book of the month was in May. My 5 stars was The Day of the Triffids by John Wyndham. This is a story about a very British apocalypse where there's these plants and they take over basically. And there's a meteor shower and everyone looks up at the meteor shower because it's beautiful, and then everyone goes blind and society devolves incredibly quickly, and it's very dark, but it's full of that British pragmatism of like, I think the book opens with like, He knew it felt weird when he woke up on a Wednesday and it felt like a Sunday because it was very quiet. And uh he goes in and there's like, carnage everywhere because everyone's blind, and he takes like a pasty or something from a shop and he leaves money because, like, well, people might get better, so I'm just gonna leave a bit of money so I feel good about myself. Um and then my big fantasy book that I read in May was Magician by Raymond E. Feist, the first in the Rift War cycle, which is also the first in the Rift War saga. This I gave 4 stars to. It was long and bonkers. It was absolutely bonkers. I really liked it though. I got more into the world over time. We follow a few characters. The main character, Pug, what a name for a main character. Um, I really enjoyed him. I really enjoyed him. And then the other characters I kind of didn't enjoy as much, but I love that it took big swings. Um, we got loads of world building in this. There's a war. There's one of the characters gets possessed by an ancient being who has control over elves. Just bonkers. Really, really enjoyed it. And that's why I'm going to try and read the second one, which is called Silverthorn, I want to say, in August on my Kindle. It was on my Kindle. So, into June, I read Captain America and Falcon, The Two Americas, by Christopher Priest. I read that on my phone, on the Kindle app, and I didn't enjoy it. It was 2 stars. It's very short. It's 4 issues. Um, it's about Falcon is kind of going behind enemy lines, and is he a bad guy? Is he not? I never believed that Falcon was a bad guy. Um, the main thing that really dropped this for me. Oh, there's like a Captain America complete copy again. That seems to happen a lot. But the art style I just find was really gross. They were all so huge and muscly, and they had like muscles in their faces, and they all were like the whole time. It was not. I didn't enjoy it. Then, in the start of June, I finished my May's Jack London book, which was The Seawolf, which was brilliant. It was so good. The Seawolf is about a man. He gets basically shanghaied onto a ship. And the Seawolf, Wolf Larson, is the captain and is one of the most interesting characters I've ever read about. He has such a distinct view on the world, and he does not change. The world changes to his will, and I loved reading about him. I think I said on a comment to the StoryTube people, StoryTube couple, Carlos and Yolanda, that I can imagine it's like Moby Dick, but shorter, because it's about sailing, and there is like about hunting animals, but it's mainly about the captain and him being such an interesting character. So maybe if you want to read Moby Dick but you're not sure about it, I would recommend The Seawolf. I haven't read Moby Dick, but I read The Seawolf and I absolutely loved it. So, then I followed that up with June's uh, Jack London book. Come on, brain, figure it out. Which was The Game, which was very short. It was like a novella, maybe even a long short story, about a young couple, and he's an up and coming prize fighter, and it's about him preparing for his fight that's going to launch them into the stratosphere, and yeah. So I thought it was fine, 3 stars. Then I read on my Kindle The Truth Beyond the Sky by Andrew M. Crusoe, which was one of the worst books I've ever read. I thought the characters were incredibly flat. I thought the plot was just a series of set pieces with no meaning, full of plot contrivances. I thought the prose was poor and dull, and I'm okay with that because it inspired me to start writing again. And I did like a few bursts of writing. I've kind of fallen off again, but I need to get back on it. But it was inspiring in a way because I was like, this person has written something that I don't think is very good, but people really like it. It's got a reasonably high rating on Goodreads. He has very few ratings, but he's put something out, and he's written a trilogy, and that's more than I've ever done. And I think my writing is better than that, so it kind of inspires me to be like, hey, if other people like this book, then maybe other people will like my book. So that's good. Then we stopped reading The Winner's Cup one of the Pokemon books that we've got with the kids. It should have been a really exciting book because it's Ash doing loads of Pokemon battles as he goes to win the Orange League. But we didn't even finish it because literally every chapter was just another Pokemon battle, and the kids were listless. They weren't paying attention. It wasn't grabbing them. And since then, that's the last of the Pokemon books that we've read. We still got a few more because we bought it was like a box set of like 15 that we got. But we've stopped reading them. And I think because the last couple that we read were boring for the kids, so we've moved on. And that was all of June. Then into July, I read The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, which I gave 3 stars to because I liked some parts of it, and the middle bit I found less interesting, and it kind of lost my attention a bit. But when you have a book that's only 150 odd pages and the middle's boring, then But I love the context of it. I love how it's still interesting. It's interesting to think about. Then I read to my son a book called Bunny versus Monkey by Jamie Smart. This is like a comic book. Each is full of stories. So each story is like 4 to 5 pages of panels with Bunny lives in a forest with his friends, who's a pig and a squirrel. The pig is just called Pig. The squirrel has a different name. I can't remember now off the top of my head. But Monkey is a science experiment, Planet of the Apes style, who gets launched by these British scientists. And they're meant to launch him into space, but they launch him just over the hill into the forest, and he thinks it's a different planet, and he's come to rule this planet of the woods. And the scientists are like, yeah, that's cool. Job done. Let's go get a cup of tea and a custard cream. And it's about Monkey trying to take over the world, or trying to take over the forest, and he meets a skunk who has lots of inventions to do all kinds of things. So it was I gave it 4 stars. It was really enjoyable, but the book was like 250 pages because I think it's the first 2 books combined, and if a story is 5 to 6 pages long, that's a lot of stories, and they're fairly similar. So I think my son liked it more than I did. I kind of it got very samey. I think if he's a bit older, because that's one thing as well, is that the art style was very young and funny, but the phrasing and the references, but the phrasing was quite grown up. Like, my son's 7, and he couldn't quite read it on his own. Maybe in a year or 2, but we really liked the art, so it was like a bit of a disconnect. I think it's designed to read to your kids rather than for them to read themselves. I think if you could read it themselves, he'd really enjoy it. Anyway, then in July I read Just Stab Me Now by Jill Bearup. I gave this 4 stars on my first review, and I might bump it up because I keep thinking about it. And I was talking to my friend, and I was like, "You need to read this book. Like, you need to." And she was opened up Amazon, and she put like on a save list, and I was annoyed that she didn't click buy. Yeah, so I might have to bump that up because I thought it was really, really good. It's a story it's like a fantasy romance story, trying to prevent these 2 nations going to war with sword fights and things like that. But the author gets involved. The author breaks the world and comes and talks to her characters because they're not doing what she wants. And then the characters start talking back and giving her a bit of lip as well. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed all the different layers to it. Then we got a book from the library called The Legend of Kevin by Philip Reeve. We got this just because of the cover and the name. And it was really good. Kevin is a roly-poly flying pony. He's a magical creature, and he meets a boy, Max, and Kevin likes flying and eating grass and eating custard creams, not in that order. I thought the art, it's like filled with art. It's mainly words, but it's like there's art all the way through it. Really, really fun. Really good. I thought the plot itself, because it's about like the town floods and Max and Kevin go and save everyone, I thought that the plot was okay. I really liked the fact that even though everything floods, like the supermarket floods completely, like, every completely underwater, but people still go out and try and do their shopping, but they wear like swimming goggles and they've got shopping trolleys and they're trying to put stuff in the bags. Like that I found funnier than my son. But yeah, so it was a 4 star. Then I read Rifles by Mark Urban. That was July's mystery book, um, which I really, was it July's mystery book? Yeah. What am I doing? And I really enjoyed that. I thought it was educational and informative. I wish the maps were better, and part of it is because it's historical. You follow a group of characters, and then a big battle happens, and lots of people die, and then you're kind of finishing off with a different group of people, and you're just not into it. So I gave that 3 stars. Then I read the QI Book of Sports by James Harkin and Anna Tzinski, which was very informative and funny. One thing that I learned that still sticks in my mind is that when you're watching rowing in the Olympics, it's not the actual paddles you can hear. They just have a sound and they play the sound to match with the paddles. And the sound person in the studio is doing incredible work because it's just too loud. You hear the crowd cheering, you can hear water rushing, wind, like it just doesn't get picked up. So that was 4 stars. And then my July Jack London book was Before Adam, which I loved. I found it so interesting. It's about the main character has flashbacks to a previous life. And not just a previous life from 100 years ago, but from millions and millions and millions of years ago to a life before humanity, where we hear the story of this missing link between ape and man. And there's like another evolution of man that he has to deal with and is more evolved than him and has discovered fire and is coming to, wipe them out. Really good, really good. Perfect Jack London story, I think. 5 stars. And then when we went back to the library with the kids, I gave in The Legend of Kevin, and they had the sequel, Kevin's Great Escape, by Philip Reeve. Again, the art is brilliant, but this time I thought the story was much better. My son was so into it that when something bad happened to Kevin, he was like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" and like he made me keep reading to make sure that Kevin was okay. So I like skimmed ahead and I was like, "Don't worry, chapter 7 is the book." And he was like, "No, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen?" And I was like, "Well, the book is called Kevin's Great Escape, so I think he's gonna be okay." And he was like, "Oh," to calm him down. So to get that emotional reaction out of him shows that he did really care about the story and the characters. Yeah, so that's it. 20 books. It's a lot of reading. Overall, I've enjoyed them. I've enjoyed them a lot. So, there was one book as well that I started that hadn't finished. I was trying to look it up, and it was like, what was my June mystery book? And it was Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. So I'm halfway through it, and I took a break because I discovered as I was reading it, my pace of reading was slowing down. And I was like, why am I reading less? And what's not engaging me about this? And this is a me thing. The book is very good. Some people's favourite books. One of my sister-in-law's, or one of my sister-in-law, it's one of her favourite books. There we go. That's how you put a sentence together. And I was like, I can't fault the book. But it's, at the moment, I'm just in a bit of the book, the middle of the book, where I've read the past, I don't know, 100 pages. I've just been about women being horrible to each other. I don't want to say the word, because this channel's for everyone. I try not to swear. But yeah, they're really being horrible to each other. I can't understand what the aim is. By putting each other down, they're not raising themselves up. They're just putting the other person down. And you kind of go, okay, well, this is the antagonist. So this is what she's going to do, because that's like where they're two geishas going up against each other, and it's about prestige and things like that. But I don't see the aim of it. And you're like, oh, they go to this scenario, cool. Oh, and then this other woman appears, and what's going to happen? She's going to be really horrible. Okay. Then they leave, and then the next chapter, it's like, oh, we're going to this situation. Oh, and this woman appears, and she's going to be really horrible. And I was like, I'm just done with it for the moment. So I might take it to Japan with me. It is a paper book, and we've got so much stuff to pack. Because I think reading it in Japan will probably be better than reading it at home. But yeah, I just had to take a break from it. I am planning to finish it by the end of the year. One thing I wanted to do with my mystery books was I wanted to read all of them by the end of the year. So we'll see. I'll come back to it. But anyway, there we go. That's 20 minutes. It's a long video, so sorry about that. But I discussed in the end 21 books. So give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I really, really appreciate it. My name's Tim. This has been my channel. Now get out of my house!